Thursday was the most physical practice we've had this entire offseason. And finally, the team is starting to look like a team.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Sun Devils. Happy Friday. Sorry about yesterday, by the way. We had some recording issues. Don't worry. We're going to have full coverage of the scrimmage on Saturday to make up for it. But today, both sides of the ball actually looking really good in the most physical practice. We got some news, some insight maybe into the quarterback one situation. But before we dive all into that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Join all the action at FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a home run this MLB season. But Parker, we're going to start with the quarterback situation because finally it looks like Boley is starting to come into his own.
Yeah, but bigger news for me, Phil. I think it is fair to say, I don't think it's officially official, but semi-official that it's a two-man race.
Yeah.
It's Boley and Mikey Keene. I think it's almost 90% I would say that it's a two-man race between Boley and Mikey Keene. Just because those are the two guys that have really separated themselves. Boley has looked like he's taken a step. He had some turnover struggles early in fall camp, but as Tontozona's rolled along, he has looked a lot more mature, looked a lot more clean, a lot more efficient, and Mikey Keene has been hanging in there with them. We've seen Fetty and Dyer kind of drop a little bit, so it's officially these two guys, and we'll see over these next couple of days with a big scrimmage coming up that could be a big separating factor for either one of these two guys.
Yeah, we saw Kenny. He didn't say we were going to have a QB1 after the scrimmage. You know, he's not going to say that just yet. Who knows what happens? But in the post-practice media availability that he was giving, he was like, look, guys, we're going to learn a lot on the scrimmage. I think the full quote was, we're getting closer and closer to a QB1. We're going to learn a lot in the scrimmage on Saturday. Something to that effect. Like, we are getting very, very close. And the more I still don't know who it's going to be, Parker. I mean, on the one hand, you have Boley, and I opened the show saying he's making some strides. He dropped a dime. He actually dropped a couple dimes to Reed Harris. He did a good job running the run game. There was one muffed snap. Actually, I think that was a Fetty muff, or not a Fetty muff snap, a muff snap to Keene that we talk about, but he did a good job running the run game. He had a couple dimes to Reed Harris. And in a practice, Parker, where I was a little bit worried, right? You're playing more physical 11-on-11s. It's full contact. And he did I think he got blown up in a play from what I was reading. He did take a reasonable hit. He got sacked. That's where I expected to see some of this turnover stuff start to rear its ugly head a little bit more, if we were going to see more of it, because you're under threat. As Kenny says, quarterbacking doesn't matter until the crap hits the fan. All right. And he didn't do that. If anything, he stepped up. He made some plays with his legs. Again, he found Reed Harris on a couple plays. Uriah Nellums, by the way, had a great day. He made a lot of connections there. And he put all that together. It's like, okay, when the tough gets going, Boley gets tough. And I love to see that response.
I'm going to take it back a little bit, Phil. When I saw a tweet from Jacob Brooks on Sun Devil Source, and it led me to think, and I want your thoughts on this as well. It was from Kenny Dillingham, and it was about the QB battle. Kenny Dillingham said, you want to have a quarterback as soon as possible, and he thinks that Saturday is going to be a big day. But then that had me thinking, if ASU names a quarterback after this Saturday scrimmage, names a starting quarterback, does that put them in a better spot for the first 2 weeks of the season than if they waited later in the year? Does that give ASU a better chance of taking down Texas A&M week 2? I know the odds are large, but does having a couple extra days of, okay, this is our day one starter, does that give them a significant edge than if they were to wait and be like, okay, we're still not sure who our guy is yet? Because the more I've thought about it, the more I've looked at all the different possibilities, and I just don't know if it affects ASU all that much just because of all the moving pieces. But at the same time, I kind of agree with Kenny Dillingham. Having a quarterback one is already loaded in the tank by this Saturday, having all the other weeks to prepare, that could help out ASU so much in the first couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, there are two ways to look at this, Parker. On the one hand, you're going to say, well, making it so no one knows what Arizona State is doing up until as late as possible is decent from a prep perspective, right? A&M, give them less information to work with. But realistically, Texas A&M is not prepping for Arizona State on August 14th. They are prepping for their own season. They are maybe prepping for their week 1 game, but realistically, they're getting they're doing the same thing we're doing, right? They're solving position battles and they are doing all the camp stuff, getting themselves ready for the season.
Mm-hmm.
And whether we delay it 5 days or something is not going to go and make any substantive impact on how Texas A&M is going to do their prep. On the flip side, getting a quarterback 1 installed, whether it is Cutter Boley, whether it is Mikey Keene, all of a sudden they are getting the lion's share of the first string snaps. You're starting to really build chemistry between the QB1 and the offensive line. You're just grinding the handoffs to the running backs. You're getting just because you have a lot of snaps, you're just getting a lot more interaction with the wide receivers and where they're going to be and how they run their routes, and whether the tight ends where they're going to be. AJE had a great day yesterday. Some really nice passes, really nice receptions. But the more we can do, especially when this is a first-year quarterback, a first-year quarterback in the system, first-year quarterback on the team, anything we can do to give them chemistry, to give them as many reps as possible in what Marcus Arroyo and Kenny Dillingham, who, by the way, has been calling offensive plays the entirety of this fall, at least in Camp Tontozona. The more reps we can give them, whoever it's going to be, in that is just there's no way that's not a positive.
And it almost leads me to think, Phil, that there needs to be a little bit of more urgency when it comes to naming a starter quarterback. And it leads me to wonder if there is a sense of urgency in the coaching staff to name a starting quarterback, or if they're more relaxed and at this, because they do see both sides, Phil, that you said that they have to see both sides, where it's like, okay, we want to make the right decision. We don't want to rush things, but at the same time, if you name a starting quarterback, it gives you so much more time for preparation. And as ASU fans know, as Kenny Dillingham knows, time is just so crucial in college football. I wonder if they're thinking back to last summer and already having Sam Leavitt named as the starting quarterback, and think about how much less stress that was for the coaching staff to go through and, all right, let's evaluate these quarterbacks. Because it is a tough decision, Phil. At the end of the day, if it's Cutter Boley, if it's Mikey Keene, it will be a tough decision for this coaching staff to make.
Yeah, it will be. That's kind of the other side of this. I'm like, well, is there any? How important is it that they do this as quickly as possible? And the answer is, it's important for them to secure it as soon as they've figured out what's happening. Right? If you have to go and it takes another couple days for someone to move forward and come and take things by the reins, then it takes them a couple extra days. If you got to force it, that's also, we saw this happen last year on a different side, but we put Coleman as center because we rushed our evaluation and it didn't work out at all. And then we were in this awkward situation where finally Wade Helton moved over and it got a lot better. But the answer to your question, we need to figure out this quarterback situation as soon as it gets figured out. And I know that's a non-answer, right? It's like, yes, we will figure out how wet the water is when we get into the water. But if you think about it, it's like, yeah, okay, as many reps as possible, but we don't want to put Cutter Boley in only to find out that Keene was better, and then we got to swap things around. All right, that is kind of the situation. But this scrimmage is going to give us a lot of answers. Remember, the team is in closed session today. To the best of my knowledge, there's no media at the Friday camp. I do know it's going to be, it's always kind of closed to the public, but we're not going to have a lot of information on the practice on Friday. We're going to be going in clean sheets on Saturday. We're going to see who's taking first team reps, who's taking second team reps, how this all goes. And hopefully we're going to learn a lot. Ideally, we're going to walk out of this and maybe Kenny Dillingham doesn't go and name a QB1 as soon as it's over. But within the next couple days, he's seen enough. He's like, okay, Cutter Boley, he's developed enough. He's hitting the short throws. He's hitting the long throws. He's not making the dangerous throws. He's QB1. Or he is still making these decision. He still has these decision problems. His processing isn't quite just there yet. Mikey Keene is our starter, Cutter Boley, next year or something. We're going to have to see. But I think we're getting there. Everything I'm seeing, everything I'm hearing, seems like we are finally getting into that QB1 situation. But it wasn't just that. Honestly, both sides of the ball looked really good yesterday. Locked On Sun Devils is brought to you by FanDuel. You think you know who's going deep today? Call your shot every day with daily dingers. It's really easy. You're just going to go make your pick on one game a day, one player a day, who's going to homer in that game. And if you're right, you're going to get a profit boost on your next bet. It's a free pick every day throughout the entirety of the MLB season. And it's really just, look, the MLB season is 162 games. I love baseball, but that is a long season. And this is just a great way to stay engaged when, say, your team is on an off day or they are an on day, whatever it is. Just stay engaged throughout the nice long MLB season. And, as a Sun Devil fan, I pretty much always put mine on Spencer Torkelson. He's having a decent year. He's a lot of home runs, and he's a former Sun Devil. Always love to see him doing well. So if you want to join in on all the action and figure out exactly who's going to go hit a home run, check it out at FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick, an official partner of the MLB. Was not just the quarterbacks having a great day yesterday. Your Ryan Ellams, tons of catches. Reed Harris blowing it up. Marquise Gillis looked great. Oh, and yeah, the defense, after maybe a little rough to the start of the game, kind of awkward, but they came back really, really strong. But before we get into that, do have to ask you to go and like this video, subscribe to the channel. Let us know where you think the quarterback battle is, because this one, it feels like we're starting to get there. Let us know. And of course, notifications set to all. But Parker, it was not just the offense here. Both sides of the ball starting to look like a team that can win some football games.
We'll give the offense their flowers in a second, but we would be remiss, Phil, if we did not open it up with Montana Warren. What a couple of days of practice for him. He has continued to just be on a tear these past couple of days and really has just had a nose to get in the backfield. I mean, him, Boogie Wilson, Rowan Peter, those are guys that have just consistently found ways to get into the backfield, get some rhythm, and it's turned some heads on the coaching staff. They've talked the world of these guys, and the amount of physical athleticism that they've been able to put on display, and just overall to answer the bell at the end of the day when it comes to the coaches being like, hey, this is going to be one of the toughest practices you're going to face all year long. It's going to be really tough, really physical. How will you do when it actually becomes to the scrimmage time at practice? Well, normally in those situations, it's normal to see a defense a little sluggish, a little slow, because a lot is physically asked of them during those tough practices. Well, the ASU defense, they came in with a lot of rhythm. Now, they gave up some big plays. I believe there was a 55-yard touchdown on kind of a short passing route to Reed Harris, but there were some moments where the defense, they looked really solid, really smooth, and those are the moments we want to focus on, and Montana Warren was a massive part of that. Montana
Warren had a great time. Kyan McDonald, as that the second team nickelback, had a great day as well. But I also want to talk about this line. We were a little bit worried. I think it's still right to be worried about the depth, especially in the interior and tackles, just because we did lose Mikael Gardner at the start of the year, or I guess at the end of the spring. But we have a great running back room. We've talked about how good Kyson Brown, Marquise Gillis, David Abbott, everyone are going to be. We have a great running back room. We have a solid offensive line that have been drilling together as pretty much a constant first team the entirety of this fall. And there were a couple times where we were end of game scenarios or other scenarios in the 11-on-11 where we dialed up a run with our offensive line. A line, by the way, in the spring that was able to just let running backs kind of run with impunity. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, something like that. And our offensive line, coupled with the linebackers, did a great job, really good job of stopping the run, which is what you want to see. Because again, our secondary massively improved over last year, and our running back attack is going to be really good. But it's nice to see this identity of Arizona State as a top team that can stop the run, maintaining that identity into this year.
And we would also love to mention the fact that Owen Long has continued to look great at practice, and the fact that he's on the Butkus Award watch list.
Yep.
And which is big for ASU. I'm trying to think back, because ASU has a great history of linebackers, Terrell Suggs being a big name. Great history of linebackers, Keyshawn Elliott last year. There are just so many great linebackers. So the fact that Owen Long is being on the watch list for it in the preseason, that's huge for ASU. But either way, at practice, we've heard just rumblings that he is just the best player on this ASU team. Just pure football, eyes, talent, ears, everything, intelligence, that he is just ready as a second gear for it. And that's what we can expect to see, and that's what we've been seeing at practice. He's helped in pass coverage, he's helped in the run, he's helped in adjusting the line. Overall, when it comes to a leader on this defensive side of the ball, they'll look to Owen Long.
Yeah, and again, he has been exactly what we're looking for, which is nice. Again, it's one thing to get a guy, and you never know. I mean, remember what happened with Kanye Udo last year, where you bring a guy in, he's got great stats, and you think, wow, this guy's going to be awesome. You know, he runs the ball. He runs for 1,000 yards in an offense that everyone knows you're going to run the ball. Like, he's going to be great, and then he doesn't do much. Owen Long, with his 150 tackles last year, seems to be everything that we expect out of him. He's making the tackles, and the big thing that we're starting to see out of him as well is this ability to not just hit tackles in the open field, which is important, but to hit tackles for a loss. That was the one thing he didn't have last year. You know, part of it was the defensive scheming, part of it was the team, but he was stopping people after they'd already broke the plane. You know, he's minimizing damage instead of preventing damage in the first place. We're starting to see more tackles for loss from him. But by the same metric, we do have to talk about the offense a little bit more, because we're going to talk about the defense a whole lot more in the third segment. And it is awesome, finally, with pads going on, that we are starting to see this running back core. I know we talked about how good the linebackers and the defensive line has done it at stopping the run. Finally seeing this running back room really started to make the gash plays. 50-yard run from Kyson Brown, 20-yard gash from Marquise Gillis, David Abbott, just being extremely productive in those just run them up in the A-gap type of situations. This running back room, because there's a little worry on it to start the fall in Camp Tontozona, because we weren't hearing much. Now that the pads are on, Parker, this running back room is really starting to come into their own.
Yeah, and hearing Arroyo talk about the competition between these guys and how it's really heating up. Like, the competition's at its apex right now. I think that was the wordage that he used, is that these guys have just continued to amp it up over these past couple of days. And like we've kind of talked about, Phil, this running back race is really interesting, because I think we can kind of guess which of these guys are going to see opportunities and how all these guys really have a chance to, but it's the pecking order that we're really deciding to, okay, who's going to be the number one option? It's looking like it's Kyson Brown, but at the same time, you could easily argue, okay, Kyson Brown can only be used in this situation. Is it more of a situational room? That's what we're waiting to decide, is how does this running back room even work? When do running backs be used? Is it just, hey, we're going to ride with Kyson Brown, and then if he's been used for a couple of plays, we swap in somebody else to just get in the ranks quick substitutions? Or is it okay, we're going to do a pass play, let's bring in a receiving back. Okay, third and short, let's bring in Abbott. Are we going to change things up? That's more so what I'm interested to see, because right now it's looking like, yes, ASU has bruising guys. They have guys that can really do a little bit of everything, like Carde Mack. You have Man Robinson, a guy that is so speedy. This ASU running back race, there are just so many wild cards, and it's just really hard to figure out where these guys are going to exactly fit.
It's going to be fun. I mean, you talk about flexibility. Kyson Brown had a nice, it was like a 20-yard pass for a touchdown, ran a 50-yard run for a touchdown. Marquise Gillis gashed for 20. David Abbott, again, looked really good. Didn't hear as much out of Carde Mack today, but he's had some good days. He had some good days yesterday, day before. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot of flexibility in this room. There's a lot of depth in this room. We have realistically 6 or 7 guys that could play time. And I was a little, I know we talked this spring about, like, is this going to be running back coming by committee? We're just going to have one guy. The way everything's looking right now, it's going to be a 2 or 3 headed monster that we're looking at. There's going to be a lot of effective snaps and effective yardage out of multiple guys in the running back room. And even if some guy turns out to be a little bit better, I mean, I don't think we might not have a 1,000-yard guy this year just because we have 2 750 guys. Okay, you know, not really complaining there just with how effective this running back room is. But in the last couple thoughts, of course, Reed Harris had a monster day as well. Really nice connections with Mikey Keene and Cutter Boley. Multiple, he had like a 55-yard touchdown run, and he had another, I think it was like a 35-yard or something. Just a couple massive plays. The coach is really, really high on him. He saw Marcus Arroyo talking about how he's like, look, there's a guy, we are asking him to be the primetime guy, the A1 guy, and he is rising to it while not being too ego-filled and doing it. It's like, he knows what his role is. He knows he's the guy that's in the limelight that's going to go attract a lot of attention, and he's rising to that. And you'd love to see that. That is superstar mentality, right? That is a guy that knows everything he needs to do, and he's going to be able to go accomplish it. But also the stuff he did, those runs, breaking it open, nice bubble screen, excuse me, led to Kenny Dillingham getting on the defense a little bit, and they responded incredibly well.
Since 1986, the game has been creating classic college hats like this one that fans are proud to wear, whether you're an alumnus, a current student, a season ticket holder, or simply someone who never misses a game. A great college hat is more than just apparel. It's a way to represent your school no matter where you go. And this year, the game is celebrating its 40th anniversary by giving fans a chance to save on some of the most iconic college hats. If you've been thinking about replacing an old favorite or adding a new one to your collection, now's the perfect time. I love wearing my ASU hat no matter where I am, Alabama, Arizona, or if I'm in the Midwest, because it's a great way to find Arizona State fans and give them the old forks up. So with hundreds of officially licensed college hats to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit for game day and every day. Don't miss the chance to celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off your entire order. Visit thegamecaps.com and use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's thegamecaps.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off. But don't wait, this anniversary offer won't last forever.
We talked about the offense. We talked about the defense, both having great days, but the defense didn't really start that way. They got gashed, right? The offense was doing a lot of what they needed to do. And that took Kenny Dillingham going over to their sideline and saying, hey guys, step up. I need you to play better. We want to be the best team in the country at reacting and coming back from a bad situation, from a bad sequence. And the good news, Parker, is not only did they just shape up, they started to look really good in the second half of practice.
Well, I don't think, for people that haven't really been following, I don't think that the defense, it wasn't really that they were playing bad through the first parts of practice. It was, they were playing solid, but it was letting up those big plays, Phil. And really, nothing will tick off a coach more than letting up those big chunk plays, like a 55-yard touchdown to Reed Harris. I believe that was in a in-game situation drill that they were running. I mean, that'll get a coach furious. So a good chance to reset, a good chance to be like, okay, listen, we're the defense. We have to set the tone, and we have to overall just lock down. And they had solid reps. Now the offense, they did have some good looks. And they still pieced together a couple touchdowns. But overall, as you said, after that rallying point, the defense, I believe there was one more chunk touchdown after the Reed Harris touchdown. But after that, mostly the defense played very solid. It was very few mistakes and errors committed on their part.
Yeah. Don't take my word for it, though. I mean, Kenny Dillingham was talking about, when they did some situational drills at the end, like 4-minute drill, 2-minute drill. Defense just has to get a stop to ice the game. And when the game was on the line in the 4-minute drill, it was 3rd and 1 for the first team offense, 4th and 1 for the first team offense. And the defense stopped them. Like, at the end of the day, that's football. It doesn't matter how you play, but when the game is on the line, you got to find a way to get it done. And the defense found a way to get it done today, even though they didn't play great throughout practice. Again, these are Kenny Dillingham's words here. And that's fair. Again, Reed Harris went for, we had Kyson Brown for 50, Reed Harris for 50. That first part of the practice was the offense just firing all cylinders. I think it was, they did 3 offensive possessions. They scored 17 points. Situational. But on the second half, again, we talked about Kyan McDonald getting a tip on Jake Fetty, leading to an interception, multiple stops, the run defense doing what they need to do. Montana Warren laying a big hit, massive hit to go set that tempo. And again, this is kind of the ideal situation, Parker, as we talk about getting forward into the fall. We want the offense to have the confidence and look really good and make the plays. And then we want the defense to respond. And that's what we're seeing. Again, we're seeing, as I said, I think early on, I mean, this is finally starting to look like a team that is coming together as a football team and is in a great situation to win a lot of games this year.
It really has over these past couple days. And this is the jump that we were asking ourselves, I believe, in mid-March, late March, just like what we wanted to see when fall camp rolled around. And we've seen a massive jump from not only the offensive, but the defensive side of the ball, because there's a lot of guys that have left this program, NFL draft, graduating. And so there were a lot of questions on how does this defense look going into this season? Because part of us, there's a part of me that kind of wondered, I won't speak for you, Phil, but there's a part of me that wondered that would this defense find its identity by week 1 of the season? I want to say it's completely there, but the pieces are really there for it to have a solid identity week 1 of the season. There was a part of me that was like, okay, maybe this defense, maybe they really hit their final form week 3, week 4, week 6 of the season. But I think it's safe to say, Phil, that this defense is getting a way, way better spot, and I feel so much more comfortable than I thought I would heading into fall camp.
Yeah, we already knew that there was a lot of talent. Right? We knew the secondary, regardless of whether Miles Rouser rejoins or not. It seems like it's maybe trending in the Rich Kengeika direction. Really hard to tell, even if we're going to add anyone. But regardless, we knew the secondary was incredibly talented. We knew our linebacker core, at least the number 1 guy in the linebacker room, insanely good. One of the best linebackers in the Big 12, certainly in the country. We knew our defensive line, any set of tackles anchored by CJ Fight, is going to be great. But the pass rush, we lost a lot of productivity there. Arizona State was pretty high in the number of sacks generated last year in the quarterback pressure, even if it didn't always feel like that at times. But, is it all going to come together as a team? Are the linebackers going to be able to go up and stop the run? Are they going to be able to identify that? Are they going to be able to go help out the secondary? How is that all going to work together? And again, as you were saying, Parker, the good news now, they're doing that. We are starting to see this come together as 11 guys doing what they need to do. And I'm not trying to say it's perfect. I don't think you're trying to say it's perfect either. There's still room for improvement. We're only 8 days into fall camp. But if we can see this level of improvement every time that the pads go on, and a lot is asked of this team, because Kenny Dillingham was saying, you got to play with passion and intent every snap. I got to make them uncomfortable. And I got to see how they respond to that lack of comfort. And they're responding to the lack of comfort. If we can see that level of growth, I mean, it's good news, especially because how this defense is put together. There was a great article where they asked a bunch of anonymous SEC coaches, Parker, about the different teams in the SEC. They were talking about Texas A&M. I was like, okay, if you can force their quarterback to try to use his legs more because he thinks to stay in the pocket and pass because he thinks he's a passing quarterback and he's really not. He's a very mobile quarterback. And then just play screen and play zone and do all that and bracket these wide receivers out. You're going to be in a good spot. You're going to be able to take a lot of points off the board. Given how this defense is building and responding and the way that Brian Ward likes to play the defense, this is really good. This is excellent news for that week 2 game in at Texas A&M.
It is really good news, and I love the way that everything's shaping up. I think we're running out of time, Phil, but I did want your thoughts quickly, and I hate to rag on your guy, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that Derek Eusebio is number 5, and Jaden Daniels was number 5. It was number 5 at ASU. So the question is, should he give up number 5 in order to pay respects to ASU legend Jaden Daniels?
Well, we have Derek Eusebio. We have, I think, Roman Pitre is number 5 as well. We have like 3 5s, 2 or 3 5s on the team. My better question is, I think in respect and solidarity for Jaden Daniels, Arizona should lose 5 games this year. That actually is,
there we go.
You stolen valor. You got to go claim some of Jaden Daniels for your own Arizona. Lose 5 games. Take yourself out of Big 12 contention, especially lose the Territorial Cup. That really is what matters. But that is, as Parker said, that's going to do it for us today. Tomorrow, unfortunately, Parker's going to be on the road going back to campus, but there's a big scrimmage. We're going to learn a lot about it. We're going to do a full episode as soon as the scrimmage ends, or I'm going to do a full episode after the scrimmage ends about everything we've learned at Camp Tontozona and what it means for the fall moving forward. So if you want to make sure you get that and don't miss anything else, make sure you go hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and make sure you set it to all so you really never miss an episode. And again, let us know how you're feeling about this team. If you're on YouTube, we're going to send you over to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On College Network. If you are on Apple or Spotify or anything else, make sure your second listen is Locked On Big 12. Drake Toll does a great job getting everyone set up for the season because that's getting closer. It's getting a lot closer. And for Parker, or at least for myself and Parker on Monday, we will see you next time.